Hey, welcome to episode 8 of The Final Guys, where we're going to discuss a movie about this dude who wears a red suit and jumps around buildings, has a web. You might know him as your friendly neighborhood Spider Man. I am your co host, Hunter Shea. I am joined by a big ass douchebag, Jason Brandt,
The coolest douchebag, I prefer.
and a douchebag in training, Jack Campese.
I think I'm more at a professional level than a trainer, but hello.
I know what you're a professional level of, but I'm not going to say it because my virgin ears. So before we jump into the usual madness that we do here and how we waste our lives watching horror movies instead of doing something useful for society, Jack, why don't you hit us with what's going on in the news in the world of horror?
Well, fellas, first of all, good to see you. I got some news that's going to, as usual, some of it will excite you and some of it's going to make you roll your eyes. So let's start with some eye-rolling news. What's probably the last thing we need to see? I'll tell you what that is.
Oh,
I thought you said this last week.
I think this is going to be my new shtick.
I was going to say Jason in a banana hammock.
It changed your life.
George A. Romero is going back to the zombie well, and he's creating a movie. I'm trying to find what the hell the name of it is here.
It's called Nobody Gives a Shit.
Oh, Road of the Dead.
Road of the Dead.
It's really the Fast and the Furious with zombies.
No.
In the darkest days of the zombie apocalypse, the last safe place on Earth is anything but. As a mad, deep despot uses the spectacle of high-octane carnage to keep control of his populace. Set in a sanctuary city where this fat cat runs a haven for rich folks, one of the things he does is stage drag races to entertain them. There's a scientist doing genetic experiments trying to make the zombies stop eating us. And he's discovered that with a little tampering, they can recall certain memory skills that enable them to drive cars in these races. So it's demolition derby with zombies at the wheel. And of course, it all hits the fan. It's a romp. It's great fun. Stunts galore. This doesn't sound like a car wreck, friends. This sounds like a train wreck.
Wait a second. I'm in on this. I'm psyched for this.
That's for real. You're not trolling us right now.
Nope, you can look this up. I posted the poster for it on Twitter last week.
He's building on Bub. Of course Bub can drive a car. He can call on Alicia and he can fire a gun. Of course he can drive a car.
After the last couple of Dead movies this guy's made, I am not on board with anything he does. He made the best zombie movies and he's made like the worst zombie movies.
I feel bad for that guy because he never made any money from those. But for the love of God, man.
Well, maybe if they gave him a budget this time around, because they never do.
Diary of the Dead. Oh my God.
Oh, that was really bad.
Look, I hope I'm with you, Hunter. I'm hoping that this is like a kitschy classic, and we're like, yay! At least it's fun. And listen, Wormwood, that movie was awesome, and that was car centric. The zombies weren't driving cars, but they were fueling them, and that movie's awesome. So I don't know.
I'm a little excited about the possibility of a so bad it's good episode on this. It sounds like it's right up my alley.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I think this is actually going to be fun. I'm putting my money on this. I'm gonna give it a thumbs up before I even saw it.
Fun would be nice because the last couple have not been fun. Not even not good, just not fun.
Yes, they're not fun. There was nothing fun about those last couple. So here's some good news. I was very excited about this news. It only took 10 years, but the Poughkeepsie tapes are finally going to come out on Blu-ray.
The Poughkeepsie tapes? No way.
Yeah,
Nice.
So the October 10th, but it's going to hit VOD, I think, in September, maybe.
So now you've been able to watch it on YouTube for free for about 15 years. So
yes,
now we can pay for it. Awesome.
Again, it's kind of like the last broadcast. You could do better. So I always liked that movie. I'm due to watch it again. That's got some brutal stuff in it.
That's disturbing. It's one of the more disturbing found footage movies ever made.
What's the story behind it never getting a proper release? What happened there?
I don't know. That we should look into that. That it really never did, and it's one of those cult movies that you've got to make an effort to track it down. Everybody seems to like it or appreciate it in some. It's you've seen it, right?
Oh yeah. I think it not having a distribution is what made it so good in people's minds.
And it's dark. I mean, that makes Megan is Missing look like a rom-com.
Oh well, no, nothing makes Megan is Missing look like a rom-com. It's the only movie we ever watched. When we were done, my wife and I had to have a Brady family meeting and talk to the kids. Literally 5 minutes after that, we're like, kids, come on.
Yeah, I went and got fixed after watching that movie.
Oh.
Well, this is good. The Poughkeepsie tapes will be more accessible and more people can get screwed up from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Couple of other quick things. Eli Roth is producing a new movie called Haunt that takes place in one of those extreme haunted houses. Let's see. A group of friends encounter an extreme haunted house which promises to feed their darkest fears. The night turns deadly as they come to the horrifying realization that some nightmares are real. Haunted house gone wrong. We've seen it a million times. Eli Roth. I'm curious to see what this. He's hit or miss.
Yeah. Is he directing it or just producing it?
Let's see.
And is his hot wife in it?
That I hope. Produced by him. I don't know. Scott Beck and Brian Woods are directing. I don't know who that is.
Cool. Yeah, Eli Roth's done some interesting stuff. Just sometimes when he makes his movies entirely about gore, they just don't entertain me that much. Like the Green Inferno, I just never.
You didn't like that?
Eh.
I dug the Green Inferno.
I thought it was meh.
Yeah, meh.
Had some good parts, kind of flat. I did like Cabin Fever.
I love Cabin Fever. That movie's so much fun.
Cabin Fever's so good, my publisher ripped off the poster for my first book cover.
You guys gonna party? I like that guy.
Was it Joey?
Cheryl Ladd's daughter's in that movie. She's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And my last piece of news: Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, the dudes behind Shaun of the Dead and what the heck, Hot Fuzz. They are getting back together for another horror comedy. This one's going to be called Slaughterhouse Rules. Kind of like Cider House Rules.
Right.
The project will center on a formal and proper prep school that finds itself quite literally plunged into hell when a local fracking site opens up a mysterious sinkhole. Specific details related to the nature of the film's monsters remains firmly under wraps. So, if these guys are involved, I'm there.
Taking on fracking, those liberals. Stay in your own country. Worry about England's problems.
Yeah, I'll watch anything those guys do, and if they're going down into hell, I'm in. Hell yeah.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. I'd watch the like a Cheerios commercial if they made it.
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead's one of my favorite movies ever. So, I mean,
beautiful.
It's the one that they did recently, the one with the bar hopping.
Oh, at World's End or something like that. I never saw that.
I didn't see it either.
Fun. You guys haven't? Oh my God, that's your homework. Next week you're going to talk about how you watched it and tell us how you like it.
I didn't realize that was both of them.
It's Simon Pegg. I don't know. I think it's just Simon. It's really good.
Okay, check it out.
That's all I have for news. You got any news?
Nope. I'm pregnant.
Oh, I thought your face was looking a little fatter.
You know what? I had Chipotle. Maybe it's just that. I have no news. Do you have any, Jason?
No, I got nothing this week.
All right, nothing for JJ, the douche plane. But why don't we go to you? Why don't you tell us how you frittered away all your time this past week instead of writing?
Well, I did see some pretty decent stuff this week. I'm not going to lie. I probably read more than I wrote, but... So first up is a movie I found on Shudder called Digging Up the Marrow. Have you guys heard of this?
I've heard of
Yeah.
it. I haven't seen it yet.
It's directed, written, and starring Adam Green, who's done a couple movies that people liked: Hatchet, Frozen.
Hmm.
He did that show Holliston, which I never saw. He's kind of becoming a name in the genre a bit. This was a documentary slash found footage kind of thing where he is contacted by a man played by Ray Weiss who says he knows where real monsters are. And Adam Green and his crew hook up with Ray Weiss and go out to this spot by a cemetery where there's a hole in the ground and basically try to find proof of monsters and try to record them. It's pretty damn funny at times. I really like the humor, and I think
Intentionally?
that yes, yeah.
Okay.
And it keeps what it would otherwise be a really silly movie. It makes it fun and makes it less serious, and it worked. It's not the greatest thing you'll ever see, but I really enjoyed it.
Is
So,
Kane Hodder in that one?
he has an appearance in it. Yeah, there's a lot of cameos. A hell
So
of
that-
a lot of cameos.
That's worth watching then because it's on my list.
Yeah, you could definitely do worse. I'm trying to think who
Okay.
all the cameos were. I think Mick Garris was in it. I think Tom Holland was in it. So, yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think that was
pretty
like a who's who of like indie and indie
Yeah.
horror was in
And
that.
if
right?
you like Ray Weiss, who's great in everything he does, there you go. That was
Jack and I prefer Ray Walston, who is the Martian, my favorite Martian.
Mr. Hond.
Exactly.
All right. So that was Digging Up the Marrow on Shudder. Then I watched a movie.
Is
I'd
it
seen
Marrow or Marrow?
Hell, I don't know, man. I just
Marrow.
write the words. I don't pronounce them.
Marrow.
You ever hear
Tomatoes.
Jason say tomorrow?
Tomatoes, marrow.
Hey,
Bone marrow. Say it right.
I'm from the freaking mountains in the middle of nowhere, okay? When I went to college, the amount of words I learned that I was mispronouncing my entire life was astronomical. People had no idea what the hell
It was
I was saying.
astronomical.
Yeah, exactly.
Jason, you can't keep telling every woman that she has a pretty mouth.
I didn't know till I was 17 that it was a radiator, not a radiator. So,
I will give
That's-
you credit that we call it both here.
Yeah, that's questionable here. Your radiators in your house, your radiators in the car.
oh no,
it's the
mine
other
was
way
just
around.
a radiator, even though it radiates
Oh yeah, you're
heat.
right.
So yeah, I every week or so, my wife looks at me like I've lost my goddamn mind because I said something. So this is an ongoing issue.
And this is the man who writes.
I believe. Hey, I don't read the audiobooks, man. I just write the words.
I don't read out loud.
So I watched another movie. I think it was on Shudder. I watched it through Amazon, so I think it was Shudder that I'd seen before, but I wanted footage movie. But this one was directed by Rennie Harlin, who did Die Hard 2, a bunch of other
Deep Blue Sea.
decent movies. Oh, that was him, wasn't it?
Deeper,
Didn't he
bluer.
do that movie? Did he do Long Kiss Goodnight?
With Gina Davis?
Gina Davis.
Yeah, he did. They were married at the time, weren't they?
I think he did a pirate movie with her too.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. He did, yes, Deep Blue Sea. You're correct. Cutthroat Island, The Long Kiss Goodnight, Cliffhanger. That's actually a good movie.
Cliffhanger.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master.
He was
Oh.
the balls in the 90s.
Yeah, he's kind of disappeared a little bit recently, and I think one of his last movies was Devil Pass, and it's about oh god, you think I mispronounce things? Wait, do I try and say something?
Is it
in
about the
Russian?
Dyatlov Pass in Russia?
Dyatlov? That's how you said. Okay.
There we go. See? Assist.
Yeah, it's about a crew going up there to try and find out what happened to them, a film crew, and they run into weird Russians and all this shit. But when they get up to the spot where the people died, really oddball things start happening to them. They find a tongue out in the snow, and they find footprints.
It's from the kid in A Christmas Story.
Poor flick.
It's a pretty good movie. I like it. The story gets pretty fun. The CG gets pretty bad, but it's worth a watch. You know, for people like us, anyone listening, it's definitely worth a watch. In the hierarchy of found footage films, particularly in the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's high up there. That doesn't mean it's a great movie, but it's high up there. It's worth a watch. I mean, particularly if you have Shudder.
Oh, cool.
That was Devil's Pass, and then I watched a movie you said, I think last week, Jack, 21 Days.
Yeah.
This movie was really frustrating to me, and it was for pretty much all the reasons you said before. That there's some interesting stuff in it, a couple good scares, a little bit of interesting camera work here and there, but man, the writing really pissed me off. There's things that really irk me in movies, and it's probably just because I write. I bet a lot of people don't notice this shit, but when at the beginning they're boarding up the house so that they can't get out, because I should say this movie is about filmmakers who go into a house no one's ever been in beyond 21 days because supposedly a demon will enter your body or some crap like that. But right or wrong, they board themselves in, and they have a contractor outside, and he's boarding the windows up, and he looks at the guy who hired him and says, well, these windows are all boarded up so that you can't get out, just like you requested, or something like that. And that shit drives me crazy, because he hired you to do it, so he goddamn knows why you're doing it. It's just lazy-ass writing that really pisses me off. Like, do a narration or something. Do anything. Change it. But there was a lot of stuff like that throughout that irked me. But I looked it up, and it's the first time writer, I believe, so it could just be, I don't know, I don't want to say young writer issues because that sounds like condescending asshole stuff, but it's just some stuff like that that irked me. Some of the camera work that they were doing, they set up security cameras so you could see throughout the house, but then they didn't utilize them in moments when they really should have utilized them. There was a lot of typical found footage crap of why in the hell are they still recording? You know, like, you don't need the camera because you already have a flashlight, so why are you recording this? And they had security cameras set up, so they could have just used that footage. So it was an easy problem to fix, but they didn't do it. So little things like that.
In one room, in the barn, instead of a camera, they just had one that took a picture every hour. And you're like, well, why with all this video cameras would you just do that?
And what are you going to catch? You know, it was just...
It was just for the gag of what happens in the room.
Exactly. And they never go back to it again either. That was it.
Was the aspect ratio jarring, or did it help with the movie? Or
the aspect ratio was fine, but I do believe they were using an incorrect lens, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. The entire movie felt like really zoomed in, super tight on people's faces for no reason. And a couple times I saw the camera, and it looked like they were using one of those long telephoto lenses instead of a short range. So
right.
There's your nerd moment, piece of shit.
Well, hey, let's just give a quick shout out to James Herbert, who made an aspect ratio kind of joke video for us.
That was funny as shit. That was
Thank you, Jim.
So yeah, that was 21 days. There's even crazy stuff. They set up all the security cameras, and two of the people are a couple, and one is third wheel guy. And third wheel guy is the one who goes through the footage every morning. But after they get the security cameras set up, the couple just start banging on the bed, and they've got two cameras pointed at them. And my wife's like, wait a minute, doesn't the other guy check the footage every morning? Isn't he going to see this? Like, it's just
right.
A bunch of little shit like that.
And they do it like right away. It's not like, oh, we've been here a couple of weeks and we forgot. Like
no, it was like they set them up. All right, take your clothes off. It was
exhibitionists.
But I agree with you in what you said before that, again, for guys like us, you're going to check it out. Just go in expecting some issues that might irk you a little bit, but some fun stuff in there too.
If I had paid instead of like Amazon Primed it, I would have been pissed. But for an Amazon Prime, I was okay with it.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Okay, I got two more things, and I am done. I read 2 books this week. One was a complete turd. It was very short, though, so that helped. It was called Just Add Water by Hunter Shea.
Just go ahead. Just kick me right in the taint. Have at it. I'll stand up so you can do it here.
My review, just add talent.
That's awesome.
Wow, dude, I can't even see that. Hasn't even landed yet.
My nards is sore.
For any of you Hunter Shea fans out there, this was, dude, I thought this was quintessentially you. You get this premise, you barrel through it in the first 5 to 10 pages, and then the rest is just all hell breaking loose. It was the quintessential Hunter Shea monster story. It
wasn't even my idea. That was my editor's idea. And he said, who do I know who would write a killer sea monkey story. It's like, oh, you.
If you've ever wanted
So
to see
that's part one of a
children-
trilogy. So get ready for more.
Really?
Yeah, it's
didn't know.
all based on. It's called Mail Order Massacre, so it's based on the crap you could buy in comic books in the 70s and 80s.
That's
Nice.
a great niche. You can do the X-ray glasses.
That's the next one. It's called Optical Delusion. Comes out in August.
I love it.
Very nice. So well done, dude. That was really good.
Thank you.
The other one was more of a mystery thriller. It definitely wasn't a horror story, but I wanted to throw it out there because it was by a first-time author named Danielle Esplin, and it was called Give It Back. And it was really well done. I was shocked to see it was her first book because it was so well written. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know how much of our audience would even care, but if you like mysteries and thrillers, it's definitely worth it. Check her out. She's
Cool.
got an interesting Instagram feed too, where she's in lingerie and shit. I don't know. It was weird. I was trying to make sure this was the right person. It's like, is this an author?
Maybe this is what you and I should be doing. We'll get more followers. Or
Yeah,
less.
that'll do it. Put my fat ass out there in the thong.
I'm going to wear my Elvira dress.
That is my week of not working.
There you go. Good job. So anybody who's waiting for the next Jason Brandt book, you can suck it because it's going to be a bit longer. Okay, speaking of suck
funny.
it,
Is
Jack,
anybody waiting for a Jason Brandt book? You're killing me.
you know what? This episode is called Jack Strikes Back. We've kicked you so hard your prostate's hanging out your mouth the last few weeks, so here you come.
I got a jar full of preparation H going quick.
Oh, God. Go ahead, Jack. The floor is yours.
All right. I saw some good stuff this week. First of all, not horror related, but it was on Amazon Prime, and I've been looking to watch it. Have you ever seen Sicario with Emily Blunt and Josh Brolin and Benicio del Toro?
On Netflix, the drug
Yeah,
cartel thing. I haven't, but I heard it's really, really good.
really good. It's like a two hour, maybe a little bit longer. So I'm always like, oh, I got to be ready for this, whatever. It flies, really good. Thumbs up. Not horror, but like really like a good thriller.
Right. I love Emily Blunt. So.
Oh, Emily Blunt's great.
And Benicio
Yeah,
del Toro.
He is awesome in that.
All three of them are, and actually the kid from, this is actually why I wanted to bring this up. The kid from Get Out is in it.
Really?
Which one?
The main kid.
Oh, really? Oh, my daughters are in love with him.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, he's in something else. You know who else is in it briefly is the dude who played Shane in Walking Dead, the Punisher guy. I forget his name.
Yeah.
He's got a small part in it. Okay, on to horror. Where to start?
Oh, boy.
First of all, I'm going to start with, I don't know. I think one of you saw this movie and said it was good, but I don't know why I'm not hearing more about this movie because it's one of the best movies I've seen this year. The Girl with the Gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I'm saving that for a special day. Everyone says it's really good.
I had heard very little about it. Jason, I think you might have said that you saw it and it was good. I loved it. It was so good. It's a zombie kind of movie that's got a fresh take. It's got Glenn Close. What's her name? Gemma. I can't. How the hell say her last name? Araton or something like that. She was. She's in Byzantine and Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters.
Oh, I like that movie.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful dark-haired woman.
She's it. Both of them are great. The little girl is spectacular. It's sort of in a post-apocalyptic world with a zombie-like plague. I almost don't want to give too much away about it, except that they put new twists on things. The performances are great. It's a really well-written movie that, you know, from start to finish, from the arc and the journey the characters go on and everything, like it wraps up perfectly. It's different. I loved it. I was so surprised at how much I like this movie. So I can't recommend that one enough.
And it can't make your list for this year because it's a 2016 movie.
Is it? I thought it was released in 2017.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was last year.
I watched it a long time ago. Did it just hit Netflix or something?
I saw it on Amazon Prime. I'll have to check the release date to see if it qualifies for the list or not this year. If not, it's a retro.
We'll have to amend last year's list.
Release
'Cause
date
a
January
lot of
26th.
these movies, they get released
Oh,
like in a small release in like the year before, but then they get wide release. So sometimes you can grandfather them into the new year.
all right. Jason said January 26th, so it qualifies.
Oh, good. Sticking with newer things, I watched Castlevania, the 4-part Netflix anime production, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. How was it?
So, first of all, for something that was just made, it feels like you're watching anime that was made back in the whenever the heck they were 90s or when like Vampire Hunter D and all that stuff. So they really did an authentic job with the thing. It's like 4 twins. And I'm really glad they broke it up into 4 episodes, because if it had been 1 2-hour thing or one 1 hour, whatever the hell, it wouldn't have been. I would have probably stopped paying attention in certain parts. But by having it broken up in nice chapters, I'd watch like 2 one night and 2 the next night. It was perfect. The first 2 episodes are okay, and then the second 2 episodes get really good. So it's worth watching, but it gets better as it goes. You kind of quickly you have to adjust back into the I'm watching anime hat, where there's like overly dramatic things and exaggerated stuff and
Right.
and all that. So once you kind of get reacquainted into that world, there's some great stuff. I started off like, I don't know if I'm crazy about this. I ended up like, okay, this is pretty fun for what they're doing. It's got vampires and sword fighting, and the hero is like a wise ass guy. So it's definitely worth watching.
What was it like for you watching anime that wasn't anime porn? Was that
Really weird.
Were there
I went
tentacles
to
in it?
Yeah.
in New York City. They have a museum of sex, and years ago, a friend of mine worked for Trojan, and they had a special condom event hosted at the Museum of Sex, and he got me tickets so I could go to this thing. The Museum of Sex is really fun to go through. There's a lot of weird, wacky stuff in it. The funniest thing was when you went to the bar, they were showing anime porn on the wall behind the bartender. So I'm like getting a drink, and all of a sudden, like, this girl gets it right in her hair, and I'm like, I don't think that's shampoo.
Did you also ask everyone why condoms are so baggy?
They had a whole thing. The whole thing was about condoms.
They always fall off. I don't know why they make them so baggy.
Is it like the opposite when you wash these? Do they get bigger or something?
Oh, Jesus. It's getting brutal tonight.
My next movie actually reminded me of Hunter along these lines. Train's going by.
We did have a fan falling, so we have
Pain Train's coming, woman. Woo woo. I watched a movie called Dead Girl, which is, I think, 2008. This was a Shudder. Yeah. So these 2 guys who are kind of like high school outsiders go to this abandoned hospital to drink beers one day. They end up getting chased by a dog into the catacombs. They find this room that's been sealed off and locked, and they find under this like plastic a woman who's alive, and it turns out she's like a zombie. So you can kind of like harm her or kill her, and she doesn't really die. And she's like chained to this gurney. So naturally, what do high school kids do? They start to rape her and stuff, and have like a sex toy. And kind of a feel-good rom-com.
I remember that movie was shot. Everything was so dark, and it was like it was used film or something. I remember I was frustrated by how dark it was.
It's an entertaining movie. It's funny because when you think about it, you're like, this is like the dark side of human nature put to film. Like, right. Yeah, it happens in other zombie movies. The Brian Keane books, The City of the Dead, had some stuff where humans were, going at it with zombies and things like that. This movie just explicitly goes for it. But it's better. It was better than I thought it was going to be. So it's a good Shudder pick.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I like that. I liked it. I was just frustrated with the look of it.
It is dark though, so you got to be ready for like the. Oh, okay.
I'll just listen closely and try to figure out what they're doing.
This isn't Ash versus Evil Dead fun. This is like, oh, this is kind of yucky.
Gross. Yeah.
You
got more?
That's everything.
That's everything. Okay. I will get on. I will preface this with the movie that I watched this week. I will tell you that I did finish the first draft of a book that I'm writing. So I did get things accomplished. But
nice.
I did watch Crystal Lake Memories, which is the Friday the 13th documentary. That's
like 6 hours, isn't it?
It's long.
6 hours and 40 minutes.
I'm flirting with it, but I couldn't pull the trigger.
The first night I watched it, I watched about 3 hours without moving. I am such a Friday the 13th fan that because what they do is, first of all, it's hosted by Corey Feldman.
Nice.
Little Tommy. And they do a little thing with him in the woods around a campfire and telling the story of Friday the 13th. But then he just becomes the narrator, and they go through every single movie, including Freddy versus Jason, including Friday the 13th, the series, including the reboot of the series. And I was just captivated by this because they pulled in a lot of the stars, just about every director, gave you a lot of the behind the scenes stuff going on. At the end of every segment, they showed you what the box office was. And it's amazing how little money those movies were making. But they weren't spending anything. They would spend, Friday the 13th Part 1, they spent $500,000. And they made, I think, $19 million, which literally bankrolled the entire series. But over the years, I think they said that everything that it's brought in, I'm sure with all the, the sales of video rentals and DVDs and all the tchotchkes that go with it, I think it's close to $1 billion they've made off this thing.
The licensing alone must be where they made a lot of money.
Yeah. Halloween costumes. I mean, they must have made a killing.
Oh my God. It was cool. I liked did you guys know that the guy who directed Part 5, that's the one where it's not Jason.
Mm-hmm.
It's the sheriff or whatever. That was directed by a guy who was a porn director. So if you go back and watch that one, there is more nudity in that than you can shake a stick at. And it's really erotic. And they'll call that one, is it that one or Part 6, Fry Gay the 13th? Because there are actors in it that were obviously gay. And
ooh, they should do a double feature with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Part 2, exactly. So I loved it. I could have sat there and watched more. My whole family thought I'd lost my mind. And they kept
coming off the Fright Night doc that I watched and having loved the Nightmare on Elm Street Never Sleep Again one, right. I can't wait to jump into this one because this one I've seen the Blu-ray of this on Amazon and oh, should I? And then I don't, so I'm psyched that I can watch it. But 6 hours, that's going to be like a 3-night event.
Well, what you can do is each segment is about a half an hour long. So you can say, oh, tonight I'm going to watch, everything on Part 2. Boom, turn it off. You don't have to be a lunatic like me sitting there with your mouth open like a, mouth breather.
Wasn't this done by the same people who did the Nightmare on Elm Street doc? I feel like it is.
I don't know.
I feel like it is. But when I saw it last year or the year before, and I loved it.
It's funny because when I first saw 6 hours, 40 minutes, I thought that was wrong. I said, it's probably an hour, 40 minutes. But no. But literally, I wanted more when I was done. I really wanted them to get some more of the actors. But they did a good job getting everyone back. So that was awesome. And then I revisited a movie I think never gets the credit it deserves. Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah.
From
love that movie.
2009. Sam Raimi literally, I keep saying literally, Jesus, shut up. Conjuring up Sam Raimi of the 80s. And Jack, I know you must love Alison Lohman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime I see a girl that's like the Jack girl right there. I always go, that's a girl Jack would like.
I was just listening to a podcast about the Spider-Man movie, and somebody pointed out that Sam Raimi was coming off the Spider-Man movies, and he did that movie as sort of a take a break from the big studio blockbuster, and he went back into the small horror movie just to kind of get his groove back. And
oh, it's such a fun movie when she's fighting that gypsy woman in the car. That's pure Ash battling demon stuff right there, and so grossed up with her false teeth and her gnawing on her mouth. And when the girl goes into the gypsy funeral and the woman's in the coffin and the body spills on top of her and all the formaldehyde comes pouring out of her mouth into Allison's mouth. Oh my God, so gross.
I always thought that movie was like Stephen King's Thinner on steroids.
But fun.
Yeah.
Oh, so much fun. And you know what? This should be in more top maybe 20 lists of all time. I don't hear a lot of people talk about this movie.
You know, I haven't seen it in a couple of years. Wasn't there a director's cut or something like that that changed a couple things around and made it even better? It's been a couple of years, but I feel like there was.
I'm sure there is. There's always a director's cut of everything. But I'm telling you, if you haven't seen it, go out and see it right away. Turn us off. Go watch it. We'll be here when you get back. And if you've seen it before, watch it again, because I hadn't seen it since it originally came out. It's been out. That came out 8 years ago. So it was definitely due for rewatching, and I was very pleased.
I love the ending of that movie.
Oh, great ending. Ballsy ending. So that's what I watched. That encompassed about 8.5 hours of my life. But I did read a book. This is a British Gothic novel. It's set in the 1970s called The Loney by Andrew Michael Hurley. This is his first book. One of those guys where you get so pissed as a writer, you just want to punch him in the throat because it's so damn good. He's gotten great reviews. Stephen King called it an amazing piece of fiction. To do it justice, I'll just read what the synopsis. When Smith was a boy, he and his family went on an Easter pilgrimage with their local parish to the Loney, a bleak, and I stress bleak, stretch of the English coastline to visit an ancient shrine in search of healing for Smith's disabled brother. His brother was mentally challenged, and his mother thought that by going to the shrine and praying that God would make him right and he'd be able to speak and he'd be intelligent. But the locals were none too pleased to welcome them, and the two brothers soon become entangled in a troubling morass of dangerous rituals. It's a slow burn of a novel, but you just feel, even when they're just in the house and hearing weird sounds or just talking about the rituals and the priest, and he's dealing with these, he's a new priest and he's dealing with these old-time parishioners. It's riveting stuff. To me, it was riveting. I guess as a former altar boy, I was really invested in it. But look, it's not going to have a wild. He doesn't shade the ending, and it doesn't go batshit crazy with things jumping out and everyone dying. But modern Gothic novel. So check it out, The Loney.
Nice.
And that is no baloney. So that is what I did this week, other than finishing a book. Before we jump into a review of Spider-Man, I want to let you all know you can follow our travails at finalguys.com. If you listen to us on iTunes or anywhere else that you can pick up podcasts, please rate us, give us some reviews. We'll love you. If I see reviews on iTunes, I will reach out to you and I will give you a free copy of Loch Ness Revenge or Savage Jungle. You tell me which one you want and I'll give it to you. So drop some reviews on there in the next week and you'll get a book. And also, we're on YouTube Live every day. You can see our beautiful faces live, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday on our YouTube channel. So just go to finalguys.com. You can find everything. So before we get into the next Marvel Fest, Jack, why don't you explain to everybody what this movie's about in case somebody doesn't know who the hell Spider-Man is?
Spider-Man is
my Dr. Spider-Man.
He's Jewish.
Spider-Man, first introduced to us in Captain America Civil War, is a high schooler named Peter Parker who has recently come into spider-like powers and has now joined the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. As you can see, Hunter has 2 cool Spider-Man faces.
If you have audio, you can't see. This is why you got to watch us on YouTube.
the movie's called Homecoming, and the great thing about it is that not only is Spider-Man the property coming home to Marvel to be in the same universe with Iron Man and Captain America and the rest of the Avengers, but the movie also takes place around Homecoming at high school. Peter Parker is going to high school. Meanwhile, Adrian Toomes is a contractor working on the salvage project of the damage in the wake of the Avengers battle in New York. And for some reasons that we'll get into in spoilers, ends up becoming the villain, the Vulture, who has these giant, awesome, gnarly wings and can fly and do some damage. And so Spider-Man must confront this Vulture.
Call.
And that's about as much as I want to go into without giving anything away.
So, Spider-Man. If you're having a Seder, definitely bring Spider-Man over.
Hello, my name is David.
My name is Saul Spider-Man.
Saul Spider-Man. Flip.
Oh. Jason, you're sitting there laughing. What did you think of this movie?
Let's see. Where should I start? I think
it's always good when you start with a sigh.
Oh, I think you're going to be surprised. I absolutely freaking loved this movie. I think it's one of the best Marvel movies yet. If somebody argued with me that this was as good as Iron Man, I would not fight them on it. I laughed so freaking hard so many times in this movie. I loved it. I thought the casting was great. The directing was great. I would classify this as a comedy before I would classify it as an action film, because everything about this, even the end, the last line, which we'll talk about in the spoiler section, is just gold. I didn't get a chance to look up, in fact, I have it here, who wrote this. It's probably a committee because it's a Marvel
700 movie. People wrote that movie.
Yeah.
They listed like 9 in the credits, so that means there's 10 more.
Well, one of them, or multiples of them, are freaking hilarious. I did not want to see this movie at all. Jack basically twisted our arms last week to get us to come to this, and I got to tell you, man, you were 100% right. This is shit. There you go.
All right, Jack.
I didn't
better have liked this.
I didn't like this movie. I loved it. First of all, I saw it Thursday night before opening day, and then I saw it again on Friday night.
You are a chicken hawk.
This movie, it's in the top 5 Marvel movies. It is where Spider-Man belongs. They finally portrayed Spider-Man as a high school kid who was a believable high school kid. They balanced the humor with a great script, great story. The trailer doesn't give away too much. There's a couple of things that maybe they could have scaled back on, but there was such great surprises in that movie. It was funny. It was entertaining. It was just so much coming off the crap Spider-Man movies that they've done the past 2 or 3. I liked the first 2 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and then Spider-Man 3 was kind of weak. The Andrew Garfield ones I was not a fan of at all. To see Spider-Man done right and in the universe where he belongs, where he could reference Captain America or reference Iron Man, and it just I was just like, yes, it was like when I was watching Batman Begins. I was like, wow, they're nailing this. Like, so I was so happy with it.
All right, well, this is good because you picked it, so you better have liked it. I'm going to be the dissenter here. I think that this had all the gravitas of a Nickelodeon preteen half-an-hour comedy. I felt like a pedophile going to see this movie. I felt like a weirdo. It's like if I went to go see a Disney cartoon on a matinee. I just felt this was a movie for little children, starring little children, with a bad man who is Fred frickin' Sanford from Sanford and Son. I just thought it was one of the dumbest movies I've seen come out of Marvel. It's the only movie I would put above it. No, I mean below it might be Doctor Strange. I'm not sure though. This might be my least favorite. I think they missed Spider-Man entirely as a character. Totally shit the bed on this. That was just that's not Spider-Man.
What?
Look, Spider-Man is a character that carries great burdens of guilt and people who don't believe in him and don't like him and appreciate him. This isn't some Degrassi junior high kid. Hey, I'm Spider-Man. Just didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I fell asleep twice during it.
I'm going to quickly disagree with you on the Spider-Man as a carrying guilt one. There is an element of that in Spider-Man that the movies kept pounding into us with Uncle Ben and great power, great responsibility. Spider-Man's a guy who can't get a break, and life always keeps serving him lemons. And it's always an uphill battle, and so he can never really win. And yes, there's the guilt of Uncle Ben, but the guilt of Uncle Ben sort of comes and goes, and then he has adventures where he is just dealing with other stuff, and every once in a while that comes back. They overplayed the dark, sad Spider-Man in the movies compared to a lot.
You can overplay it, but you can overplay it, you can underplay it, but don't ditch it. It's the heart of who he is.
I think they did that because they had 2 origin stories already, so they wanted to just get him going.
I also think they knew their audience was 10-year-olds, and they don't like to deal with death.
Everything I said about your book, I take back. You are a no-talent ass clown who doesn't understand good stories.
That's not it. It's look. I see those stories. I've watched. I have kids. I watched the Disney Channel for years and Nickelodeon. It's the same quality.
I couldn't disagree with you more about Michael Keaton's villain. I thought he was awesome because this story was small. That's why I liked it. It wasn't the typical Marvel, we got to save the world for the 18 millionth time. I mean, at the end, all he really did was stop a guy from moving some guns. That's really all he did.
Yes.
And I loved it. I loved that Michael Keaton only kills one guy in it, and it's an accident. He's not some supervillain, and I dug the hell out of it.
I don't think he killed that guy.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did? All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy's gone. He's a puddle. Everything you said you didn't like is exactly why I liked the movie. I thought the humor was great. I thought the bad guy was great. I thought this was the first movie that captured the essence of the Spider-Man comics I read in the 90s, where he's talking goofy crap while he's messing with people and saving people, and I loved it.
And I like the fact that it's not the very start of his career, but he's early on, and so he's making mistakes. He's making bad decisions. He's trying to please Tony Stark. He wants to be an Avenger. He's got a taste of this bigger world, and so he's just making rash decisions and trying to deal with things like a kid would. And not all of his decisions are smart ones, and it comes to bite him in the ass. But he also makes a lot of cool decisions, and you're always rooting for him. So I thought the kid who played him, I thought did a great job because he was just enough of a nerd. Andrew Garfield was just such a good-looking guy. He was a good Spider-Man, but Peter Parker was like, dude, this guy is like a stud. Tobey Maguire sort of was the opposite. He was like a pretty good Peter Parker, and maybe a little stiff as Spider-Man. This kid, when he was in the spider suit, the weight. So one thing, I don't know if we should save it for spoilers, but they were able to express the comic book always has the internal monologue, thought bubbles and stuff. They figured out a great way to translate that into this movie. And so when you hear him talking or making quips or whatever, it that helped translate the Spider-Man from the comic book to this movie.
Okay.
I feel like we saw different movies. I mean, I can't believe you didn't like it.
No, I literally thought it's a movie for little children. I felt weird being there.
Oh, I was so happy. 20 minutes in, I leaned over to my wife and I said, "Wow, this is really good." She's like, "Yeah, this is great." And it kept getting better. I was the first sequence, I guess. The found footage kind of thing they did with his cell phone. I absolutely adored that. I thought it was brilliant. Getting a little behind the scenes from Civil War.
I thought that was really cool. I did like that part. In fact, when it started, I was kind of excited, but then I was like, then it just fell apart for me.
So here's the thing. I am a I'll put my hands up and admit it, and you know this. I love the Marvel Universe. Even the lower rung movies, I feel like add to the texture and of the palette. So Doctor Strange may or may not be your cup of tea, but it got him into the universe. There was some cool stuff. Maybe it wasn't one of the better ones, but I love the fact that now Doctor Strange is in the universe, and so he can be a part of the bigger picture. So I love that this Spider-Man comes into a world that I'm already familiar with, and there's other characters that I already know. There's relationships. I already know Happy Hogan, and I know Tony Stark, and they can reference events that happened, and the kids are playing like the game with the F Mary Kill thing. Like,
oh yeah, that was great.
I love that they come into the existing world, so they don't have to introduce everything. You can just sort of, I'm in the familiar Marvel universe, but it's its own little section. That it's the nice thing about this movie was they weren't trying to sell the next Avengers movie. They were just like, this is a Spider-Man story with nice subtext or texture to the story in a familiar setting. I thought that really helped kind of speed things along and make it more enjoyable.
Go ahead. You're gonna say something.
Well, I was just gonna say, why don't we just slide right into spoilers, because we're going to be hitting on time. So everybody, we're going to hit spoilers now. So if you got to bail out, go watch the movie, come back, see us. You can tell me what a schmuck I am. That's fine. I'll take it. I'll take it for the team. Just follow us on finalguys.com. Like us, rate us. If I see stuff on YouTube, not YouTube, iTunes, ratings, I will reach out to you and I'll get you some books. So rate the whole deal. God bless you. And now we go to the spoilers.
Okay, can we talk about the great twist in this movie?
Oh, when Michael Keaton is her dad?
Yes.
That was one of the times, the most surprised I've been in a movie in a long time. I did not see that coming at all.
So here's the great thing about that for me. Spider-Man's got this great tech suit that Tony Stark gave him. He kind of blows it with the Staten Island ferry. Tony Stark takes the suit away from him, says, you got to earn this. So he kind of stops being Spider-Man, and he's sad at first, but then suddenly he starts like enjoying school. He gets a date with the girl he's been pining after, and things are kind of turning around. And then all of a sudden he goes to pick her up, and her father is the Vulture. And you're like, exactly. You're like, why didn't I see that coming?
Yeah.
And then you have these two scenes. In the kitchen where Peter's just paralyzed by fear and
playing it real cool.
And then that freaking, when Michael Keaton is then figuring it out, he's like, oh, you were there? Well, what was it like in the elevator? Oh, you weren't in the elevator. You know, he figures out he's Spider-Man, and he's like, honey, you go in. I want to have the dad talk.
And he pulls out a gun.
This is spectacular. This is...
Yeah,
those two are not in their costumes, and that's the best confrontation.
That's actually something I really like that they did with Michael Keaton in that scene, is he wasn't the typical idiot who can't figure out, oh, Superman takes his glasses off and nobody knows who he is. He figured that shit out in like 15 seconds. Boom,
he's by far the smartest scrap metal junk man that's ever existed.
He's got some good scientists working for him.
He's also so damn dumb that he's selling alien technology and hasn't figured out a way to make enough money in 8 years where he can just disappear. Like, I need another shipment. What are you selling this shit for? $10 a gun?
That's what it looks like, because he was selling it to that guy out of a van under an overpass.
Staying off the radar.
And one thing I really didn't like was Spider-Man's Iron Spider suit, which I thought was just stupid as hell.
Wait, the one that Tony Stark showed him, or the one he was wearing?
The one he was wearing that was talking to him and did all. I'm like,
see, I liked the fact that the suit was talking to him, because as I was saying earlier, it gave him somebody to monologue with, so you could hear what he was thinking. And then when he's in the Washington Monument and like, this is the girl. Ooh, she's pretty. Kiss her.
Yeah, but if you need the suit, then maybe you shouldn't be doing this. Well, but by the way, when you are ready, you'll get the suit.
So you were like poo-pooing the Spider-Man movie before it came out. And it's funny because like, we've seen this before. So they did something a little bit different, and you're still not happy. So you just have a black heart.
You know what? I don't have a black heart. I just literally felt like an almost 50-year-old man being surrounded by children, seeing a kid's cartoon in a matinee. It just felt weird. I just don't think it's for me. Like it just doesn't seem it's for my demo.
Oh man, this was so far up my alley. Like even the Iron Man suit they gave him.
We know you and 15-year-olds.
Yeah, well, whatever. I thought they did a great job with that because he had it for what 10 or 15 minutes, and then they took it away from him. So it wounded him for the end of the movie, right? It kind of lessened him, and it made the end fight more interesting because he didn't have all these gadgets he was just learning. And I liked that. And I even liked the suit when he was wearing it at the time, although I was glad they took it away. But as I was watching it, and they made this movie so small that as far as powers go with everyone else in the Avengers, they could all just kick the shit out of him in a second. So I felt like the suit at least brought him up a little higher. And I liked it. I liked that they gave it to him, and I liked when they took it away. I thought, honestly, there was nothing in this movie I would have changed.
I also took this. I took this as Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe. So that's where I accepted the suit, because I was like, okay, we've had Spider-Man movies that go with a more traditional suit, but now this Spider-Man's in a place where Tony Stark is in the picture. So I thought it was kind of cool, and I like the fact that he sort of futz around with the suit a couple of times, and he's like, all right, I don't need that, stop. And so he sort of like didn't just, like use taser webs on people the whole time or kill mode, but they were good gags.
I liked Robert Downey Jr. in it. I was wishing he'd be in it more, and I'm already lamenting the fact when he leaves this shit behind and decides to do old man roles.
I'll tell you what, him and Chris Evans are both so good. Chris Evans, first of all, the freaking end scene at the end of the credits, I was crying laughing.
But I love that. I love that so much. It was so clever.
Robert Downey Jr. is almost 60 now, so when is his last go around as Iron Man?
I don't know, but when he takes the suit away from Peter, that was some good acting, because you watch the arc of the Tony Stark character, and he even says, he goes, God, I sound like my father.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think about when that first Iron Man movie came out, and he was the, troublemaker, and he was the one screwing things up. And now he's like, if you die, it's on me, so there was an arc there.
I do like the fact that they show that there is an aftermath to the, when they just go berserk and they destroy a city. There's an aftermath, and the graft that goes on with cleaning up the aftermath. I like that aspect of it, which I know went over the heads of everyone who was watching it with me.
And I love the motivation. He's like, he hates Tony Stark because it's his company he destroys the city, then he gets the contract to clean it up. I could hear any one of my friends in real life echoing that in some real life thing, like, I'm going to steal something, I'm going to break something, I'm going to do something, because screw it, those guys are screwing me every day. You run into this kind of thing, and then he accidentally kills that guy. He thinks it's an anti-grav gun, and instead he incinerates the guy.
That was funny.
And he sort of like acknowledges, he's like, okay, I killed him, I guess. So he doesn't lament it at all, but he didn't really intend to do it. So, and then he has a tiny redemption arc too, because at the end, when the future Scorpion guy is in jail with him, it's like, hey, we hear you know who Spider-Man is, and he's like, nope, if I knew, he would be dead. He's sort of like, okay, Spider-Man saved my life, he saved my daughter's life, I'm not gonna, now
that I think about it, all the parts I like were the parts without the kids. Like, when you're talking about this stuff, that's the stuff I like. But when they got to 15-year-old Spider-Man and lusting after the girl who's 3 feet taller than him, and the dirty girl who obviously likes him, but
See, I like the kids because they felt like they represented real high school kids compared to other, 90210 looking 30-year-olds playing high school kids.
Oh, they were cast right, but that was my problem. I don't want to watch a movie with little kids.
And Ned was hilarious.
They're younger than my children, so it's like I don't
watch
want to watch
Stranger Things.
That's different. That's got a different vibe to it.
And you've got pedophile sunglasses. I don't see what your problem is.
Hey, man, I'm Dr. Johnny Fever, you bastard.
Are you listening to She's Only 17 by Winger?
By Winger? Absolutely. I never stop.
I did want to say about that arc you were talking about at the end when he doesn't give away his identity. I really like that too, because even when he had Peter after the plane crash and he could have just killed him, he decides not to because he's not this supervillain. He's not doing good things, but you understand his motivation. He's not just wanting to kill people for the hell of it. And I like that.
No.
And I like that he wouldn't give up his identity at the end because Peter saved him. And he's not just a terrible person. I thought his villain was so money. I just nailed it.
He's in the upper echelon of Marvel villains.
Yeah.
He is Fred Sanford with a heart of gold.
You big dummy.
You big dummy. This is the big one, Peter Parker. This is the big one.
So,
He's coming to get me.
couple things. I love the thing that guys like us at a bar will always talk about is like, what happens if Spider-Man was in the suburbs? He's got nothing to swing on.
Perfect.
Show it.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was
He's got to
awesome.
run.
And then he gets in a car at one point.
And he doesn't know how to drive. Yeah, that was great. When he was going through the suburbs, I actually said to my wife, "This is like Ferris Bueller's Day Off," and then they showed it in the movie. Now,
Right.
Perfect.
And then Donald Glover was cool.
Yeah.
And the Easter egg there is the name of his character is a guy in the comics who's the Prowler, who's a kind of a anti-hero, and it turns out he's Miles Morales' uncle in the comics, who becomes the Black Spider-Man, because there's two Spider-Mans now in the Marvel universe. So there was a future Easter egg that there may end up being two Spider-Men.
You know what? They got to watch out, though, because all of this interweaving and complexities and everybody is related to this and that is what ruined comic books and made people stop buying them. Because after all, like, I can't just pick up a comic and enjoy it because it's tied to this one and that title. And if they keep do this with the movies, people are going to start to kick back.
I feel like they started going too far with Age of Ultron, and they've kind of pulled it back a little bit there because they shoehorned so much shit into that movie that kind of ruined it. So I feel like they've done a pretty good job paring that back. There's really one other thing I wanted to mention, and it is the last line of the main movie when Aunt May sees him in the costume.
I wanted to talk about Aunt May in general anyway, so that's a good segue.
Marisa Tomei every day.
Oh, she's great in that. But when she sees him in the costume and goes, "What the fuck?" and they cut it right in the middle of the word. Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
That was funny.
Again, another fresh twist. We've had old Aunt May who doesn't know it's Spider-Man. I love that. First of all, making her young and hot, great way to change things up. They try and granny her up a little bit by having like those.
Oh, well, those
he's wearing
up to your tits pants.
Yeah, I'm like, look, you can try dumbing her down, but Marisa Tomei is gorgeous. So,
well, I love that the joke is that everyone sees through it and talks about how hot she is.
Right. When you think about it, Peter Parker is young. How can his Aunt May be like 80 years old? She should be like his mother's sister, right? Or his mother's mother's. I never figured that out. So she's actually Marisa Tomei is the right age.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would, but this kid's signed on for a good 3 or 4 movies, counting the Avengers stuff. So there's going to be like a Spider-Man trilogy plus the Avengers. So they need Marisa around. So there's one character that can get older and nobody cares.
Yeah, please keep her around.
Yeah, she was great in this movie. Everything they had her in and doing, she had a pretty small part, but she's great. She's great in everything she's in. I love her.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because as a guy who's drank the Marvel Kool-Aid and I just love the Marvel movies, it's interesting to hear you because you're not in that same position as me. So it's interesting to hear that your take on it because it just seems like such a fun, entertaining movie. So I'm all kidding aside, it's interesting to hear you like that down on it.
And I'm the only one of the three of us with a tattoo of a Marvel character on his friggin' body till the day I die. And I just wasn't my thing.
Hopefully is coming up.
I am willing. Here's something. Why don't you email us at, what is it, finalguys@gmail.com?
Final Guys Podcast.
All right. finalguyspodcast@gmail.com. Email me. If you're in the New York State, tri-state area, and you want me to come to a bar and get a bunch of people like Spider-Man, and I'll come and drink and debate you how shitty the movie is, bring it on. I'll go out there. I'll meet you at the bar. Let's have fun with this. Maybe we should record my getting my ass handed to me in a bar.
Be a whole podcast, people shitting on you.
I'll just be like here, just with more people.
Well, it's interesting because you didn't like Doctor Strange. I thought Doctor Strange was okay. I thought
It was okay.
I thought it was a middle of the road Marvel movie. That had some cool visuals and stuff, but had some great moments. But like, I liked Ant-Man better than Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Doctor Strange was as good as the comics, which was always like, I was blasé on them. Okay, so we're coming up on the end of it. Is there anything else you guys want to throw in here? Something else you want to mention before we depart for the week?
I guess, are we doing our ratings? It's probably pretty evident.
Yeah, really. Jack's seen it twice already.
I would recommend seeing it in the theater multiple times.
Will you see it a third time in a theater?
Probably.
Okay.
Wow.
Because in a few weeks, I'll be jonesing to see it again.
Brantman?
100% see it in the theater. This is probably the best movie I've seen this year so far.
Okay, and I say if you get stricken with polio and you can't turn the channel on the TV remote, it's all right.
Actually, really quick, guys. If you think about the superhero movies that have come out this year, except for maybe Hunter's view on this, a very strong superhero movie year. You had Logan.
Logan was phenomenal.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Wonder Woman, and this. Now, for me, if I'm going to rate the movies that came out, I actually like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 the best. Probably Spider-Man second. Probably Wonder Woman third, and Logan fourth. And Logan's great.
Well, that's funny because to me, Logan is #1 easily.
Yeah, I take it back. I think I liked Logan. I might like Logan better than this, but it's like 1A, 1B for me. For
to me,
very different reasons.
Logan's a horror movie. It actually might make my list of horror movies this year.
That's a depressing movie.
Logan's a tough one because I really like it a lot, and Wolverine's one of my favorite characters ever. The only thing is rewatchability. I don't feel like I need to go back and watch where I can watch Spider-Man like every week. Where Logan, I'm like, okay, Jack, that was good.
We're old men. We should enjoy movies about old men with superpowers.
I'll tell you what I'm waiting for. Who they cast as J. Jonah Jameson in this, because that's huge shoes to fill from J.K. Simmons.
It's going to be Gordon Jump, WKRP. They can dig him up.
Should just recast him. He's amazing.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, everybody. So we all know where we stand on Spider-Man. Next week, we are going to review a movie that my nipples are so hard just thinking about it. War for the Planet of the Apes. This is the third installment of the... Is this a... Do we say it's a reboot? I guess it's a reboot of the...
No, it's really franchise. A prequel.
It's... This trilogy... If this holds up as well as the other two, this is one of the best trilogies in my estimation. So, like I said, follow us on finalguys.com. Rate us everywhere on iTunes, YouTube, all the things that you kids enjoy watching and listening. And like I said, next week it's Battle for the Planet of the Apes or War for the Planet of the Apes. And say goodbye, boys.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Now you all know Hunter sucks.
Amen.
Go to hell, Spider-Mans.